all, this is not the most normal introduction, but hi. Today I'm gonna film some ASMR reading to my dog, so we're gonna have some sleepy dog noises as well. But my dog is currently on his other dog bed. I need to ask him to come here because this is the dog bed they use when he sleeps. I will be sitting on the sideline, so you will not be seeing me, and you will be hearing me in the background. I'll make sure to keep the mic close to the boy. But yeah, I'm laying on the floor right now. This is not great, and I will be switching to a wider angle so you can actually see my dog. And he's black. He's really like a black fur dog, so he's not gonna be super visible, but you will be very sleepy, and he's gonna get a lot of bits and scratches while we do this. So I'll bother him now to move to this dog bed, but I know he will forgive me. I want to introduce everyone to my boy, Shiro. Peter. I bothered him by moving him to his other dog bed. So I know here he will sleep afterwards. On his other dog bed he's not going to. And also here it was easier for me to sit up. So he's a bit upset with me. But we would read. Something. What do you want to read, Shiro? What do you want me to read to you? Is quite useless. The studio was filled with the rich odor of roses, and where the light summer wind stirred amidst the trees of the garden, there came through the open door the heavy scent of the lilac, or the more delicate perfume of the pink flowering thorn. From the corner of the divan of Persian saddlebags, of which he was lying smoking, as was his custom, innumerable cigarettes. Lord Henry Wotton could just catch the gleam of the honey, sweet and honey branches seem hardly able to bear the burden of a beauty so flame-like as theirs. And now and then the fantastic shadow on grass or circling with monotonous insistence around the dusty, gilt horns of the straggling woodbine seemed to make the stillness more oppressive. The dim roar of London was like the barden note of a distant organ. In the center of the room, clamped to an upright easel, stood a full-length portrait of a young man of extraordinary personal beauty. And in front of it, some little distance away, was sitting the artist himself, Basil Hallward, whose sudden disappearance some years ago caused, at the time, some public excitement and gave rise to so many strange conjectures. I'm not gonna touch his head because I think he doesn't want to right now. As the painter looked at the gracious and comely form, he had so skillfully mirrored in his art a smile of pleasure passed across his face and seemed about to linger there, but he suddenly started up and, closing his eyes, placed his finger upon the lids as though he sought to imprison within his brain some curious dream from which he feared he might awake. It is your best work, Basil, the best thing you have ever done, said Lord Harry languidly. You must certainly send it next year to the Grosvenor. The academy is too large and too vulgar. Whenever I have gone there, there have been either so many people that have not been able to see the pictures, which was dreadful, or so many pictures that have not been able to see all the people, which was worse. Grosvenor is really the only place. I don't think I shall send it anywhere, he answered, tossing his head back in that old way that used to make his friends laugh at him at Oxford. No, I won't send it anywhere. Lord Harry elevated his eyebrows and looked at him in amazement through the thin blue wreaths of smoke that curled up in such a fanciful whorls from his heavy, opium-tainted cigarette. Not send it anywhere, my dear fellow. Why, have you any reason? What odd chaps you painters are. You do anything in the world to gain a reputation. As soon as you have one, you seem to throw it away. It's silly of you, for there's only one thing in the world worse than being talked about, and that is not being talked about. A portrait like this would set you far above all the young men in England and make the old men quite jealous, if only men are even capable of any emotion. I know you will laugh at me, he replied, but I really can't exhibit it. I've put too much of myself into it. Lord Henry stretched himself out of the divan and laughed. Yes, I knew you would. But it's quite true, all the same. Too much of yourself in it, upon my word. Basil, I didn't know you were so vain. And I really can't see any resemblance between you, with your rugged, strong face and your coal-black hair, and this young Adonis who looks as if he was made out of ivory and rose leaf. Why, my dear Basil, he is a Narcissus, and you, well, of course you have intellectual expression and all that, but beauty, real beauty, ends where an intellectual expression begins. Intellect is in itself a mode of exaggeration and destroys the harmony of any face. The moment one sits down to think, one becomes all nose and forehead. Or something horrid. You can hear the bells. The bells woke him up. I'll wait for them to pass before I continue. It's in your mouth now. My boy. What is it? Lay down, baby. Body, bien. No, en your pecho. Vete en your pecho. Sí. And now the upstairs neighbors, damn. Look at her little face. Look at this successful man in any of the learned professions, how perfectly hideous they are, except of course in the church. But then in the church, they don't think of Bishop Kimson saying at the age of 80 what he was told to say when he was a boy at 18. And as a natural consequence, he always looks absolutely delightful. Your mysterious young friend, whose name you've never told me, but whose picture really fascinates me, never thinks. I feel quite sure of that. He is some brainless, beautiful creature who should be always here in winter when we have no flowers to look at. And always here in summer when we want something to chill our intelligence. Don't flatter yourself, Basil. You're not the least like him. You don't understand me, Harry. I answered the artist. Of course I'm not like him. I know that perfectly well. Indeed, I should be sorry to look like him. You shrug your shoulders. I am telling you the truth. There is a fatality about all physical and intellectual distinction. This sort of fatality that seems to talk through history and faltering steps of kings. Is it better not to be different from one fellows? The ugly and the stupid have the best of it in this world. They can sit at their ease and gape at the play. If they know nothing, the victory, they are at least spared the knowledge of defeat. They live as we all should live, undisturbed, indifferent, and without disquiet. They neither bring ruin upon others, nor ever receive it from alien hands. Your rank and wealth, Harry, my brains, such as they are, my art, whether it may be worth Dorian Gray's looks. We shall all suffer for what the gods have given us. Suffer terribly. Dorian Gray, is that his name? Asked Lord Harry, walking across the studio towards Basil Hallward. Yes, that's his name. I didn't intend to tell it to you, but why? Oh, I can't help it. I can't explain. When I like people immensely, I never tell their names to anyone. It's like surrendering a part of them. I've grown to love secrecy. It seems to be the one thing that can make modern life mysterious or marvelous to us. The commonest thing is delightful. You don't understand me. Delightful, sorry. If one only hides it, then I leave town. Now, I never tell my people where I'm going. If I did, I would lose all my pleasure. It is a silly habit, I dare say, but somehow seems too bright to bring a great deal of romance into one's life. I suppose you think of me awfully foolish about it. Not at all, answered Lord Harry. Not at all, my dear Basil. You seem to forget that I am married, and the one charm of marriage is that it makes life of deception absolutely necessary for both parties. I move my hand too fast. I will keep up. I'm sorry. Nothing. Oh, little pause. Little pause. I never know where my wife is, and my wife never knows what I'm doing. When we meet, we do meet occasionally, when we dine out together, or go down to the Duke's. We tell each other the most absurd stories, with the most serious faces. My wife is very good at it, much better in fact than I am. She never gets confused over her dates, and I always do. But when she does find me out, she makes no row at all. I sometimes wish she would, but she merely laughs at me. I hate the way you talk about married life, Harry, said Basil Hallward, strolling towards the door.
that led into the garden. I believe that you are really a very good husband, but that you are thoroughly ashamed of your own virtues, and you are an extraordinary fellow. You never say a moral thing, and you never do a wrong thing. Your cynicism is simply a pose. Being natural is simply a pose, and the most irritating pose I know, cried Lord Harry, laughing. And the two young men went out into the garden together and ensconced themselves on a long bamboo seat that stood in the shade of a tall laurel bush. We don't have a lot of battery left, so we'll end it pretty soon. The sunlight slipped over the polished leaves in the grass. White daisies were tremulous. After a pause, Lord Harry put out his watch. "I'm afraid I must be going, Basil," he murmured. "And before I go, I insist on your answering a question I put you some time ago." "What is that?" said the painter, keeping his eyes fixed on the ground. "You know quite well." "I do, Harry." "Well, I will tell you what it is. I want you to explain to me why you want to exhibit Dorian's great picture. I want to reason." "I told you the real reason." "No, you did not. You said it was because there was too much of yourself in it. Now, that is childish." "Harry," said Basil Howard, looking at him straight into the face, "every portrait that is painted with feeling is a portrait of the artist, not of the sitter. The sitter is merely the accident, the occasion. It is not he who is revealed by the painter. It is rather the painter who, on the colored canvas, reveals himself. The reason I will not exhibit this picture is that I am afraid that I have shown in the secret of my own soul." Lord Harry laughed. "And what is that?"